That's our little theme song. For the Dr. Ron show, I'm not really a doctor, I just play one on Sunday morning. The Common English Bible, did you hear those words? They're a little different than you're used to. You're used to, don't be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That's the more familiar. I like the way Gene Peterson says that. Don't become so well adjusted to your culture that you fit into it without even thinking. Instead, fix your attention on God. You'll be changed from the inside. Why are we here? Preacher really should never ask that question. People might say, well, I don't know, and they leave. Why are we here? I mean, not why are we here? Well, maybe why are we here? But why are we here? Why do we exist? And what happens to us when we don't exist anymore? Boy, those are old questions, aren't they? Human beings have been trying to answer those questions ever since their existence. And the interesting thing is probably human beings are the only ones on this planet that ask those questions. That's what makes us different from our cousins, the primates, and maybe the dolphins and maybe the whales. We're not sure about whales sometimes, but we don't know because we can't communicate with them, but they do have big brains. I don't know. Who knows? But apparently we are the only animals that are so self-aware that we can ask about our own existence. That we wonder, why are we here? And who put us here? And for what purpose? And what happens to us when we die? We've been trying to answer those questions forever. And in the modern world, in the scientific world, we thought science could answer those questions. Because if we could get enough knowledge and learn enough, then we would find out the truth. The only problem is that in the scientific world, we forgot what Nicholas de Cusa, this wonderful monk, said back in the 1400s. He said, and I paraphrase, the more you know about something, the more you know you don't know about it. Let me say that again. The more you know about something, the more you know you don't know about it. I play guitar. People think I'm really good. I know better. And any musician can probably tell you that. Any speaker can tell you that. Anyone who does anything well knows enough to know that there's people that have a whole different understanding of what they were doing. We were with the sextet the other night, the young man that was playing piano up here. It was just, jazz. Just play it. And I said to Diane, I said, do you understand what he's doing? And she goes, well, I know the concept. And the young man standing up here playing guitar was, he was all over that thing. And I understand the concept. I watch the fingers move, but I really don't know what he's doing. Because that's the whole different level. But you have to know something about it to know what you don't know. Science, if anything, has given us more questions. As we begin to think about it, years ago there was those twinkling things in the sky, and people gave them some kinds of powers and put them into patterns, and they affected lives and all that stuff. And in the scientific world said, let's find out what those things are. And now that we know, and how far away they are, and how many years, millions of years it takes for that light to get to us, well, now we have bigger questions. Wow. And then to discover that all those stars are moving away from us at lightning speed, and the whole universe is going like this, like some big explosion. And then there are more questions. And sometimes, when science can't answer questions for those people in the modern world, they look to philosophy or religion to answer those questions. And because they want something they can hang their hand on, sometimes we get a little overdone in that, and we reject all that stuff, and we focus on that part that Paul says, do not conform, and we close the world and around us, and we huddle down in our little faith communities and try to shut out everything else. And to find absolute truth. And a reaction that many of us that want to hang on to modernity is to remove ourselves from the community around us. The extreme examples would be the Amish and shun the world. And, maybe they're right, but it seems like the wrong approach. Because Paul says, do not conform, but, in English, we have any English teachers in here? When a sentence has but in it, isn't the second half of the sentence the important part? Okay. But, do not conform, but be transformed by the renewing of your minds. And in Greek, the word mind is nous. Nous. Put the O in the U, but nous, which means literally to sniff, to smell it out, to sniff it out, to know, to use your senses to gather in the information and to know it in some kind of a intimate sense. The mind is that which sniffs out the truth. And we find that in this postmodern world we're beginning to be part of, is that truth is kind of relative. It kind of depends on the context. What's true here is not necessarily true in Africa. It's kind of depends on what's going on around it. And that makes it tougher. That's harder to deal. It'd be nicer just to have absolutes. Isn't that more comfortable? But the more we study and get into things like chaos theory and string theory, and the physicists tell us that so much is random, and it's like, well, that's not very absolute. And they go, yeah. So how do you deal with it? Well, I think we deal with that in community. We deal with that in our faith with each other. Because, we understand that no matter what, God is in it. God is in that working process. When weather comes and challenges us, God moves his people to be there and answer in community as volunteers to help feed and clothe and take care of people and repair electric lines. And the Lord works in those situations. So rather than trying to have everyone conform to some absolute, we find that as we act in faith, we bring light and truth to others around us. We were meeting yesterday in Kalamazoo with the other 5 churches that are involved in our Vital Church initiative, and we got to brag a little bit about this building and how it's used and how much it's used. There's some times when we plan a church activity, we have a hard time finding a spot and a place to do it. Because we have so many different organizations using these facilities. So many community organizations, scouting and counseling and support groups. And it's wonderful that the community that we are a part of considers this to be a welcoming place, a place of radical hospitality that says, yeah, come use our facilities. We're also the kind of faith community that goes out into the community. We live our lives out there. We don't necessarily buy into all the things that our society tells us are right, like, wealth is better, or power is the end thing, or, whoever has the most money at the end wins. We don't necessarily buy into things our culture teaches. But we do live in our community. And we work to make it a good place to live by reconciling our community to God in many different ways. In feeding people, in helping young people learn how to learn, in giving them someone who cares about them. In very many ways, we reach out to this community to show them what God's love is all about. And that's how we transform not only ourselves, but the community around us. And to me, I don't know, that seems like a better way to go than to put up walls and hide inside of it. There are times. It's a pretty natural thing to do when the storms come, isn't it? To put up walls and hide till the storm passes. And sometimes the rate of change that we live in feels like a storm, doesn't it? And sometimes, the church is the one place that's not changing radically, and we can go there and feel comfortable. But what if we do that? The church won't be here down the line, because if we don't, the world changes, we will become irrelevant and cease to exist down the line. It'd be nice to just hold on and be like turtles, but it doesn't work. And so we continually ask ourselves, how can we be God's light in this community in which we live? How can we bring reconciliation to the places that need help in our community? And how can we best show God's love? I think that's the healthy way to relate to community. We do it in the name of Christ. We know who we are. We know why we're doing it. We know in whose name we're doing it. It's not for our own glorification. It's to make things better. Right? And that's who we are. And that's who we hope to continue to be. As we go through this next few years in the Vital Church process, we'll be developing all kinds of new strategies about how to do the things we think we need to be doing, that we feel led to be doing by God. And some of them may seem strange from time to time. But in that discernment process, hopefully together, we will be the community of God. We will be the church